The title of this project is The Complex Role of Companionship in The Thousand and One Nights in Faust, how an acquaintance can heal but also destroy a man's life. My research question is, how can a companionship heal a broken, hate-filled man, but also lead a man to his destruction? Companions come in many different forms and have very different motives. Whether or not they will act as a healer or destroyer depends on if they are selfless or self-centered. I'm doing this project in a modern day context. For me, this topic has a lot of meaning because recently, after the passing of my grandfather, I was diagnosed with moderate to severe depression and general anxiety, and having my girlfriend as my companion has really helped heal me during this rough time. On the other hand, we see Johnny Depp and his very selfish ex-wife slowly just destroy everything in his life. The first piece of literature I'm using to support this argument is The Thousand and One Nights and the relationship between the king and Shahrazad. To give background on the story, frequently the king would go out hunting, and when he was on his hunts, his wife would cheat on him. Later, his brother showed him what his wife was doing, and when the king saw he was completely in a state of depression, and he even said, "No one is safe in this world, perish the world and perish life." He decided that the world is full of evil, there's absolutely nothing saving it. So he decided, one, to kill his wife and all of his slaves, and then to sleep with and kill one woman per night for the rest of his life. He said, "There's not a single chaste woman anywhere on the entire face of the earth." Of course, this is written many years ago when there were a lot different views on women. So a woman who was chaste was seen as more pure and more accepted in society. To fix this, because she wanted to both heal him and heal the society as a whole, the viceroy's daughter, Shahrazad, selflessly volunteered to marry the king. She was already in a pretty high position, being the viceroy's daughter, so she would have never been chosen to marry the king and then be killed, but she really cared for him and for the kingdom, so she selflessly volunteered. And to heal him, she used the power of storytelling. She decided that she was going to tell him a story every night and end it on a cliffhanger, or say, just wait for the next story because it's even better, so that he'd be distracted from his initial goal, which was really destroying his mental state. She would often say, "What is this compared with what I shall tell you tomorrow night? If the king spares me and lets me live, it will be even better and more entertaining." And this really distracts him from what he initially set out to do, and slowly begins to heal him. By telling him stories and distracting him from his destructive mission, she really shows the king that there's more to life. There's all these fascinating stories that are far more important than just a murder spree. And so her companionship that she built with him really heals him throughout the story. The next piece of literature that I'm going to be talking about is Faust by Goethe, and the relationship between Faust and Mephistopheles, who is the embodiment of the devil. To give background on the story, Faust is originally in a really deep state of depression, and he has no one in his life. He compares himself to a worm trapped in dust. He says there is no friend now to fulfill this duty when he's talking about a friend giving a toast, because he doesn't have any friends. He contemplates suicide by drinking himself to death. So he needs a companion in his life. So he finds a companion in Mephistopheles. He makes a deal with him where if Mephistopheles shows him just one perfect moment, he will be Mephistopheles' slave for eternity in the afterlife. Mephistopheles is then promising Faust to be the companion he needs. He says, "Commit yourself and you shall see my arts with joy. I'll give you more than any man has seen before." So he's really saying that I'll be there for you. But he's a companion in the worst way because he's selfish. He's only doing this because he wants to lead a man to his ruin. First, he leads Faust to a witch and wants him to restore his youth, but Faust becomes really uncomfortable with it. So Mephistopheles says, "Relax, it's fun, a little play, don't be serious, so sedate." He's really unnervingly pushing him and peer pressuring him into something that Faust just really doesn't want to do, and he feels really uncomfortable with the situation. Next, after Faust becomes fully in lust with a woman he meets on the street, Margaret, Mephistopheles acts as a wingman, but again, as a horrible one. He has Faust lie to Margaret's friend Martha about her husband being dead in Italy just to make up an excuse to be at her house. But Faust is still grateful. He says when talking to spirits, "You gave me the companion I can forego no more." And he's not talking about Margaret. He actually is talking about Mephistopheles and how grateful he is that he has him in his life. But this companionship later leads to the death of Margaret's mother because Faust just wants to be alone with Margaret for one night and is really greedy about it. So he gives Margaret a sleeping potion to give her mother, which ends up killing her. Later, he impregnates Margaret, and this makes her feel horribly guilty because she's now a sinner that she has made love out of wedlock, and she's tormented by an evil spirit when she seeks comfort in a church. This leads to her brother Valentine challenging Faust to a duel, which then leads to Valentine's death. So now Margaret has lost her brother and her mother. Her brother even curses her before he dies and says, "When you threw honor overboard, you pierced my heart with more than the sword." So Mephistopheles is continuously just destroying Margaret's life, who is someone that Faust supposedly cares for. Next, after she has the child, Mephistopheles distracts him during the Walpurgis night and brings him to a naked witch and to distract him from Margaret. So he's just being a horrible person and trying to have Faust cheat on her. Next, Margaret drowns her own child because she's so distraught, and then is imprisoned and condemned to death for infanticide. And this is all due to Mephistopheles' selfish distractions and bringing Faust away from her and making him forget about her. And this really leads to his ruin. He has completely lost the woman he was in love with and his own child now. And this is in total contrast with the story of Shahrazad and how she was completely selfless in that she wanted to heal the king after he was broken and beat, whereas Mephistopheles is just selfish and wants to see a broken man go to his absolute ruin. And finally, in conclusion, whether or not a person's companion is going to heal them or lead them to their absolute ruin really depends on their motives and whether or not they are doing it for themselves or really doing it for the person they're trying to help.